Hey everybody, what's up? Circus here, coming at you with this week's Rogue Deck Roundup, and joining me as always, this time in person, not a disembodied voice.
Wow, we're gonna have to restart.
Hey everybody, what's up? Circus here, coming at you with this week's Rogue Deck Roundup, and joining me as always is Kamel. This time live and in person, not a disembodied voice like during the power rankings.
Can we even call it the Road Deck Roundup anymore? It's kind of just like the Deck Roundup.
Right. It's hard to decide what's rogue decks and what's not, but people will let us know in the comments, right? If we
Oh, they
miss
sure
them.
will.
Yeah. So if you guys are new to the series, which I doubt you are, but if you are, what we do here is we track decks throughout the weeks as they play in tournaments, and we see how they finish, and we assign them points based on how they finish, and then we rank them. Okay. So if a deck gets a first place finish, it gets 6 points. A second place finish is 4 points. Top four is 2 points, and a top eight is a single point.
And by the way, before we get into it, just remember
Yes.
that if you want guaranteed entry to all the tournaments, all the Battlefield tournaments in this video, you can either subscribe on Twitch or join on YouTube and become a channel member. Both will give you access to all Battlefield tournaments.
Completely unscripted advertisement there. Perfect, Kamel. Perfect. And moving on to the tournaments, they need to all have a similar format. That way we can compare and contrast them. So they have to have rounds of Swiss into a top cut. They have to have a single deck with a side deck, a 7-card side deck, and then they can sub in a skill if they want. So the tournaments that met those requirements this week were the Battle Phase series, the Meta series, and the Draft bi-weekly. Get in
All
there.
right.
Nice. Get in there. All right. So you guys should already know if you saw the power rankings who's coming out on top this week. But
Yep.
16 points, that's pretty good. 2 tournament victories. And that is
That is very good. Yeah,
yes,
220 victories for
that's
Rogue Deck.
Trimids.
Yeah, Trimids this week, they took this week by storm, I feel like.
Yeah.
I finally feel like Trimids found their niche in a place where they actually already had it before. I didn't think about this for the Power Rankings, but we'll get to talk about it during Rogue Decks.
Look at Fire Kings, Thunder Dragons, Weather Painters, Infernities actually making a little bit of a
Infinity
comeback.
actually
Yep.
also making a comeback as well. Looks way stronger than it did on release. Uh,
Herf's
I
favorite deck.
personally I personally haven't seen any Dragoonity around.
No,
But,
no.
but I do know Goki is performing Magnets Bujins. Bujins are nasty.
I
You
was
got to
gonna
see him in action.
I guess I was gonna say Magnus. That's Herf's favorite deck down at number 9. And Mayakashi always just kind of sliding in there, getting that top 8. But Valkyries, I think, is the biggest surprise, getting into the top
Yeah,
8.
that's nuts. I don't even know what that deck
Yeah,
does.
exactly. I think that's how it got in there because no one knows what it does. All right, let's get into it then. Trimids. This is a deck that's been around. It seems like forever at this point. Its
Yeah,
2 wins were by Gym Leader Brawl. So congratulations, sir. He won Battle Phase Friday and then the Meta Freakly Sunday.
yeah, and I also want to say Trimids is one of the decks that we shouldn't be surprised that is doing well. Trimids, when in their heyday, they were alive during the Desperado meta, and they were a tier deck because of their Desperado matchup, how they can swap out things during the battle phase when Desperado pops off so that they can make his effect null and void by putting Trimid Fortress on the field. And Desperado putting all of Trimid's graveyard resources in the graveyard makes it very easy for them to come back and recycle their Trimids. And Xyz summoning now is also an added bonus with Trimids. It's not so great, but you still detach stuff, send it to the grave. After you're done with it, you can Trimid Pulse and you get the Xyz effect, whichever one you choose. And yeah, I just think Trimids are super solid right now, and it's an easy deck to misplay against if you are not familiar with Trimids
Right.
game.
Well, then they got the Sphinx, and that's a bigger beat stick than the Desperado. So that's a good matchup right there too.
Right, I think one of the most common mistakes that people make with Trimids now is they are probably only used to the level 4s and 3s being in rotation, but when Trimid Sphinx comes out, when you special summon it from the hand or wherever, that thing is an instant game changer. And if you're not prepped to deal with it, it could quickly end the duel. Just about everything in this deck is set up so that when this deck only gets 1 or 2 turns to ramp up and switch stuff around with its resources, it'll be good to go. The traps are there so that it could take a beating and still pop off. You can treacherous your own monsters. If your opponent only has one, treachery your own stuff. It's not that bad. You can really make some risky plays you wouldn't otherwise be able to do.
I was gonna say all his traps are focused on destroying. He's not messing
That's right.
around. No banishing, nothing, just straight destruction. So you gotta like
That's
that.
right. And of course, this does mean that Trimids are kind of vulnerable in this sense, right? Their only means of removal is destruction and beating over things with very large bodies when they need to with the Sphinx or when they can ramp up to it with the Dancer. But besides that, their main win con is going to be just clearing your board out and King Golem swinging.
That King Golem is
Yeah.
just very difficult to deal with. You got to know how to deal with it, because if they swing once, you're done. For the rest of the battle phase, you're done.
We're going to need another How to Play Trimids video. I know we've done like 3 on the channel already, but we're going to need another one for Sphinx.
All right. We'll move on to the next deck. This one I'm kind of excited about because I finally picked up the deck and I've been playing, and I still don't know what I'm doing, but I'm winning with it.
We've had it for a while. What do you mean?
The next one? The next one.
The next one. I thought you meant Trimids. I was about to say.
Fire Kings. I picked up the deck, and you get to destroy a lot of stuff, and I don't know if I'm always comboing right, but it's very easy to win with because you're just destroying everything on the field. It's great. It's a lot of fun.
One thing I never liked about Fire Kings was, the field spell popping your entire board. That always made me really uneasy. I never liked that. But the new deck does have a very good way to play against it. You can actually use the field spell to your advantage. You can use it defensively or aggressively. It's actually really crazy, and that is because of Fire King Arvada. Every time we talk about it, I gotta say, because Fire Kings were not a deck before this card, and now they're a deck. Just with Fire King Arvada, anytime it is destroyed, if it's destroyed by the field spell effect, it can still float into a more powerful monster that can serve as a wall on your turn if you just need to, not die. Or you can use it aggressively to attack into your opponent's stuff, and then it'll still be usable next turn. Your win condition with Fire Kings is making you can keep up the chain of things being destroyed by card effects. Always having your monsters in circulation being destroyed by card effects so they can keep getting their effects every standby phase, and getting the searches off of your level 4 monsters like Yaksha, not Yaksha. Well, yeah, Yaksha, but primarily Barong and Arvada.
Well, being able to use the Arvada to negate a monster effect is really nice, and then destroy your own boss monster and put it into the grave is...
Yeah, and you'd be surprised how many decks fall victim to that monster negate when you actually have the resources for it in hand. It's pretty devastating when used correctly.
And just remember, this destroys a card, this destroys a card, this destroys a card.
Yeah, pretty much everything does.
Kamel hasn't seen the K-Row video, have you? That's like our.
I watched him. I haven't seen the K-Row video, but I've seen him on stream play the deck, and it is pretty nuts.
Okay, yeah, this destroys a card. That's the line from the video. You gotta check it out. It's pretty good.
I'll give it a watch.
Yeah. All right, but yeah, Small Cheese winning Battle Phase Sunday with it, so I'd like to see some more out of this deck. It didn't do too great. I mean, it did win the Battle Phase Sunday, but then second place Battle Phase EU, and then kind of.
I think it's definitely got to accrue more followers because I think everyone bashed the box into oblivion.
Yeah.
Everyone was like, trash box, why do we get this? Why do we get this? And there's actually something playable out of it. So people are going to have to.
Well, you got to get this and the structure deck. So.
Yeah.
It's kind of a barrier to entry. But hey, if you got $20 and I don't know, 5,000 gems if you're lucky. No, I'm probably not 5,000. 10,000 gems if you're lucky.
10,000 gems, yeah, more like it.
Yeah. But yeah, it's worth it. I'd say get it. That's me. All right, moving on to the next one. Thunder Dragons. My God, when will this deck go away? I'm not a big fan, but.
Yeah, Thunder Dragons just staying around because I believe they are probably one of the more consistent decks now. But strangely enough, I still do see Thunder Dragons breaking a lot, but that's probably why Lord of Scrubs cut down his list to 20 cards. A big problem that we saw with Thunder Dragons in the previous weeks is that they were drawing the things like Spear Karibo to keep them alive because their decks were running like 24, 25. They were not seeing the right Thunder Dragons to forward them into combo. You can see Lord of Scrubs here also dropped cards like Melody of Awakening Dragon from his main deck list, opting for just Gold Sarcophagus, which he used to search Levineer instead. And yeah, it ended up working out for him. A very tight list using only the necessities was able to send him to his synchro monsters very efficiently. I can't believe how many times he didn't get floodgated or how many times he actually got his synchros off. Black Rose Dragon played a huge part. I think he was playing Noble Knights in the finals.
Okay. I was just gonna say, I noticed with the power rankings the past couple of weeks and this week,
Yeah.
synchro decks are just kind of falling off, aren't they? Because we got Desperado, we got Invoke Neos, we got stuff like well, Thunder Dragons is a synchro deck, but Trimids, Fire Kings, other decks that we'll be covering in here are not synchro decks.
Yeah, that makes me wonder like what is going on? What's really changing for them to not be around? And it's straight up because the synchro uh the synchro summoning mechanisms, right? All the archetypes and their abilities to chain summon and to get a synchro monster out, none of it is viable enough anymore, or none of it is powerful enough to where it can get around Floodgate or Karma Cut.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
most of these synchro decks are just I'm gonna get a tuner out, I'm gonna get a monster out, and hopefully I can synchro with these two monsters. Some of
That's
these other decks that are doing better is they can establish more monsters. They can utilize the monsters that get floodgated or something along those lines.
right.
Thunder Dragons can still do that, but the thing is, if you have to normal summon to get a tuner out, well, then you're not getting any other Thunder Dragons out because that's how you're attributing to get your Thunder Dragons. So
Right.
you're kind of locked into this kind of way that this kind of strategy that makes it hard for you to make multiple synchros in a turn, like the previous meta where you were doing that all the time because you were milling three, you were getting your tuners in the grave, so
I was
you
about to
wouldn't
say
have to
most of them
normal
were
summon them.
graveyard. Yeah, most of them were
Yeah,
graveyard.
right.
Shiranui, Kristrons, they were bringing their tuners out of the grave or using them from the grave. You
Now,
know.
Thunder Dragons are playing two graveyard tuners as well, but most of the time I saw these cards activated, they were straight up normal summon, not usable
Hmm.
from the grave. So
So
yeah.
maybe that's the big difference. The decks that were good have been hit so hard, and the ones that are left are just like, well, I can synchro summon. I'm just not very good at it.
Well, their good synchro engines have been limited severely. You know,
Yeah.
there's no way for you to mill these tuners straight to your deck, so you have to hard draw them first.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
all
that's
right.
where Thunder Dragons are at.
Next
Still
deck.
very good deck.
What's that? Still a good deck?
Still good. I think they're still good. Yeah.
Well, they won the battle phase, Rising Sun, and then two top fours and two top eights. I mean, that's still pretty damn good. I mean, for as
Yep.
long as they've been around. All right, next deck is one that I think most people love to hate. I like the deck. I like control decks. This one's doing pretty well lately. Weather Painters, they won the Meta Weekly.
They won the Meta Weekly. I'm slowly, man, every single stream, I'm forced to watch a Weather Painter match. I learn a little bit more about the deck, you know? So I learned that this deck doesn't brick, or at least it shouldn't. You know,
Well,
this
not with
deck has
balance, no.
not with balance. No way, Jose. This is probably, I think I said Invoke Neos or something was the most consistent deck on the power rankings. No, this is probably
Yeah.
one of the most consistent decks. Balance, making it so that you'll always draw a trap. Two of your four different traps that you played are dedicated to you surviving when you brick, and the other two are going to promote your Weather Painter strategy. Weather Painters are the control deck right now. I think you can call them that. You know, more so a control deck than Fire Kings for sure, even though they're both
Oh, right.
labeled
This
as
would be
control decks.
a more traditional control deck, I would think.
Yeah. Very importantly, you do want to pay attention with how you play against Weather Painters. I think that is what makes them extremely strong in the meta. But, you know, of course, they would be doing it in meme phase if that were the case, but I don't see their meme phase win
Right.
this week.
Well, I know they're only playing two Thundery Canvas, so they must feel all right being able to search it with I can't remember the name of it, but the
The
continuous
Snowy
spell.
Canvas.
Yeah, the
That's the
snowy
one
canvas. They can
that's
search it with
perfect.
that, so I guess they don't really need to play three. With the
Yeah.
Rainbow Lives for Geki breaks, was that Howled Life Barrier? So, do they really
Yeah.
want to discard?
Well,
Or
I'm sure mm, well, I think you can search from the graveyard. I don't know, dude. See, I
I
learned
mean,
a, a
they
little.
must not
I
feel
learned.
hindered by it.
I learned a little bit about this deck, but not enough to talk about it.
Well,
To
I
be
think
honest.
sometimes you end up with like your opponent's not taking out your continuous spells or traps, so
Yeah.
you might have an extra one. When I played it back in the day, sometimes you'd end up with like a handful of like spells and traps that you're not going to use because
Oh,
your
well, you know
opponent's
what it
not
is?
taking them out.
I think you can reactivate them from the grave or from the deck with one of their effects. I
Oh
think you can
no,
activate them
the
straight from
the
the deck.
chat
I'm
is
pretty
gonna
sure.
kill you.
Oh God, dude. Someone just type out how to tell me how to play the deck in the chat.
I'm gonna have to
heart,
dust it off. There must,
yeah, I'll
play it a
heart
few
your
more
comments.
times.
Send it to the top.
All right, so there you go. They also have been they do have the ability to XZs, but although I don't know if we see that a whole lot, do we?
Yeah, you really just want to keep them on the field. When you do exist summon, I can tell you this: it's for the reason that you want to free up the spaces if you've placed your monsters incorrectly. If you were forced to place them in places where they won't be
Oh,
affected by
right.
spell or traps,
Yeah.
you want to exist summon so you can free up those spaces. Let them do their
Okay.
thing.
All right. Well, let's move on before people destroy us completely about weather painters. And then the last deck we're covering this week is another synchro deck that was hot for a day, then disappeared for a couple months, but now, for some reason, is back, baby. That's Infernity.
Okay, I was wondering which version of the deck we were going to see because in Battleface Rising Sun there was a nutty Infernity deck. They were going using Infernity Doom Dragon. And that deck did very good, but Infernities in general are on the up and up. Infernities getting 2 second place spots in tournament before this meta was not happening. So I would like to know what changed. But part of that is
Look at that back row.
yeah, the turn 1 for Infernity is pretty sick now. Actually, they don't have to deal with decks that can outplay Floodgates and Phoenix Chains because all these decks, great thing for Infernities, they can't play around multiple copies of that card. So if you're going first and you open up 2 back row in Launcher, you are good to go. You got 2 back row, you can stop whatever your opponent does, then your second turn you're going to do your Infernity cheese. So the back row is actually doing a lot more in Infernities now than it was in the last meta. Even though they were still playing Karma Cut, Floodgate, Canadian, sometimes still all these traps. It's still going. It's going a lot better for them now. The gameplay loop hasn't changed at all. It's still the same combo. Get your 2 Synchro Monsters out in Archfiend, although Sebstar is not playing Infernity Barrier. Very interesting. I think that's a important card for when you're not going to FTK your opponent, but most of the time you do.
Mm-hmm.
And just very interesting. I'm glad to see Infernity still kicking. And yeah, man, if there's anything to attest to how powerful staples are, it's look at Infernities.
Right.
Infernities are doing well right now because the staples are so much better.
Yeah. 3 Canada, 2 Floodgate. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Easy peasy. All right, let's do the at a glance here. Quick overall representation this week. Trimids. Look at that, 38. That a lot of people playing them. I think a lot of people realize that hey, I have Dark Magician, so I have Trimids. So
Trimids also did do pretty good last week for Rogue deck, so it is good to see that is let people put them on to play the deck. And I think Trimids is going to be one of those decks that we see an upward trend in. I want to
yeah.
say because that's a lot of good matchups right now.
I just want to shout out number 12 there, Valkyries. One guy played it and he got in the top 8 with it. So
I know.
congratulations to
I
him.
think I saw some footage of that.
So
Very
congrats to
nice.
him for that. Top 8 finishes this week. Trimids, of course, on top. Thunder Dragons, Fire Kings, Weather Painters, and so on. But I guess that's what you expect. Most victories. This is a surprise. Trimids on top. Not a surprise, but I was surprised at how many victories. There were 9 tournaments. Rogue decks got 5
5
of
of
them.
them.
Yeah.
Wow, they won more decks. They won more than the meta decks this week.
Yes.
Wow.
Well, if you remember the power rankings, 3 of the top 5 are Rogue decks. So
There's our clickbait thumbnail.
right.
Rogue decks beat the meta decks. Whoa.
What? We need to get a PNG of Kamel doing that. What? All
Oh,
right.
man.
And conversion rates, did I do that one? I didn't. You
Yo,
send
send
juice.
juice. What?
100%.
What
I don't
the
think there
heck?
was very good ones this week, so I skipped it. So,
Oh,
but if you
God.
guys want to see last week's, yep, Yosenju's just killed it 100%.
Yeah, they did also. They did get top 8 in Battlefield Rising Sun. I guess that's why they did get 100%.
All right, that's a little out of date. And that's it then. So Trimids on top. It was the week of the Trimids. The tryhards. That's what the thumbnail is. I already made the thumbnail. It's week of the
Man.
tryhards. That's what I call it.
Oh man, but yeah, good to see the meta decks are performing, and a lot of them are. The wins were very spread out this week, and like you said, there were a lot of them. 5 tournament wins for Rogue decks is pretty insane, winning more than half of them on the week. And yeah, I want to say this is just gonna get better for the next couple months. The game is in a pretty healthy state overall. I feel much more healthy than it has been. and we're gonna get a lot bigger of a card pool within the next month. Next month, we're gonna get like 3 different sets of cards: main
Yep.
box, structure deck, maybe a new selection box. So things are looking up, looking to change a lot.
I think everybody kind of settled down after the shock and awe of Desperado, and now
Yeah,
people are back to playing the game, so we'll be
yeah.
all right.
Desperado's powerful, but it's not powerful enough to suppress all these decks.
I think it
Not like
freaked people out because it did win the power rankings by 35 points, but then this past week it was 5 points. So people are figuring out they know other strategies are viable and
mhm,
there are decks that can stand up to it. So that's good.
very good. People are waking up.
All right, we're gonna get out of here. Make sure to get into the Discord because that's where we host all these wonderful tournaments. And the Discord's free, the tournaments are free. There's a great help channel in there, new player help channel. If you have any questions about things like that, we have a new player help stream on Saturday nights. Kamel does Battle Phase of the Rising Sun Thursday
Those new player
mornings.
helpers, man, they're patient. They are
Yeah, they are.
patient. Oh man,
Way more patient than we are.
oh yeah, oh forget it. We would have told you guys to beat it
Yeah,
long time ago.
that channel would be dead if I were in charge of it. I'd be like, we're not doing this anymore.
Oh man, gotta love those guys though. Shout
Yeah.
out to them.
Yes, thank you guys. So we're gonna get out of here. I'm Circus. That's Kamel.
Peace out, guys.
All right, we'll see you next time.